All right, today is Tuesday, October 23rd, it's 6 o'clock, and we will be having Board of Health meeting. In attendance, Jim Philbrook, Kathleen, and myself, John Sanborn. Matt has not arrived yet. We've signed last meeting minutes, and I think first up, new business.
J. Du Bois.
J. Du Bois, yep. 65 South Charlton Shore Road for septic system installation. Okay. The floor is yours.
All right.
Here's the folder, Mr. Chairman.
Maybe I should stand this up at the end of the table. So
You can, sure. Yep.
Jason Du Bois from DC Engineering. The project is at 65. Give you a minute.
Go ahead.
Good.
Continue.
All right.
You didn't miss much.
You missed my name.
Yeah.
Project is 65 South Charlton Shore Road, owned by Diane Dabrowski, who's here with us. It's an existing camp on the water. It has a septic system currently, an existing well currently, and we're looking to do a voluntary septic system upgrade. The only place the septic could go is basically on the road side of the property in the front here. And also the existing well is looking to re-drill the existing well in the same location. So the septic system is less than 100 feet to two wells. One would be abutting here and one would be across the street. This well, I'm not sure if this is even in yet. This is a new construction. I did talk to Jim Malley about it. He says they could potentially push it back a little bit if they wanted to, because it's not in yet. It's 78 feet to the proposed location where it was shown on the approved plan, and the well over at 67 is 77 feet to the existing well that's there.
Where's the existing leach field?
I believe it's right on the side of the house here.
Okay. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of in the location where the tank is,
Yep.
the proposed tank.
Okay. So this would be a definite improvement, obviously. The old system was probably very, very old.
Yeah, I mean, it's still functioning, I believe, but it's just, it's a cesspool. So,
Yeah.
it's a cesspool, correct?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It is.
But yeah, I mean, a new system that meets Title V criteria would have, more offset, more, cleaning of the water.
And there haven't been any problems with coliform and wells surrounding?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay. I see that from the folder, Jim's got the plans, he's approved it, is that right, Jim?
Jim is holding the plans.
Right, so he's got the plans, he's just awaiting our decision, is that it?
Correct.
Okay. Matt, Kathleen?
I see the butters have been notified.
Yeah, the butters that were affected, yeah.
Are there anybody butters?
You want to come forward, or?
Yes. What is the distance from 65 South Charlton Shore Road well?
If you could identify yourself, sir,
Oh,
just for the
sure.
recording for the
My
minutes.
name's Edward Bray. I live at 63 South Charlton Shore Road. I'm one of the abutters.
So currently the well is right here, which is very close to this proposed system.
What is the distance though?
I believe it's like 25, 30 feet. But that well, again, is not visible. Like, we don't know exactly where that well is.
I know the
Um,
Title V that shows it.
So it was discussed that this system is not gonna be put in until, your well is moved. So you don't have to move your well now for her to do this, but it's just.
Well, no, I
when the
shouldn't have to
well-
move my well at all if I'm not gonna do it at all. I mean, right now, I have plans to knock my house down and rebuild it.
Right, and if that doesn't happen, then she won't be doing the system, so we already discussed that.
So if that happens, how long would an approved system like this be good for? Is there a set number
I
of
believe
years?
it's 2 years,
2
and then
years.
you can get an extension.
Okay,
correct?
You can get an extension for the third. yeah.
okay, all right.
So yeah, so the idea is, if this well gets abandoned and re-drilled,
Okay,
then that system would, be able to go in.
And I'm not here trying to stop anything from happening. I just have a well that's really close to that I'm
Yeah.
worried about, that we're still actively using.
And it looks like the proposed well would be a little over 100 feet,
Yes.
maybe?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think the proposed well will be any problem. I think we took that into consideration when we.
Yeah, it's over
when we-
100.
Okay.
When we did the plans.
And I know Jim Malley's aware of that
Okay.
situation as well.
All right. Well, we've had several variances. I think you've been before the board a couple of times over the last
Mm-hmm.
years, and right down in this area, as I
Yeah.
recall, so,
Yep. That's a busy area.
very close, everything's very close.
So your concern was your well's too close?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
I didn't know if, did you have any other concerns about that, or? just
Well,
well?
the only other thing we have a water drainage problem. So if it was gonna be raised, I'd be concerned about the water coming down my property already. Right now, I have a terrible time with water traveling down the property. So if that's gonna be raised, then it's gonna send more water down my property, eroding it. That would be my only other concern.
Jason, do you know what the grade of the property will stay the same?
I mean, around the system itself, it is gonna be raised about a foot on the low side, but it's not really gonna change any grades along the sidelines of the property.
So about a foot closest to the house, is that
Yes.
what you're saying?
Yep.
Okay. A foot from where it currently is.
Yeah, right now it's kind of a gradual slope, so it's gonna be just
Correct.
lifted up. If anything, it would slow it down before it hit the slope. It's gonna pick it up and make it flatter.
And what's the overall length? I can't tell from here, or width. It looks like a square.
The system's
Oh,
20.
there we go.
Yeah, it's 20 by 15.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a small system.
And that's how many infiltration pipes?
It's 4 rows of 20 feet of perforated
Okay.
pipe.
All right.
Jay, I'm sorry, your well is gonna be what, 78 feet? Are you
No.
up here?
No, his proposed well would be over 100. His existing well now is right here.
Where's his existing well?
His existing well is somewhere in this area.
No, but I mean distance-wise.
Oh, it's like 30 feet. But again, we don't know exactly where it is. But it's
All
like-
right,
it's
so-
just lawn.
I get it. So this system is contingent upon the removal and decommissioning of that well.
Yes.
And you're saying we don't know where it is exactly? You didn't find it?
There's a Title V inspection that shows, it shows it's there, but there's no real dimensions. And if you go out there, it's just grass. You can't see anything, any evidence of it being there.
Hmm.
So I don't know how it was determined that it was there, but
Metal detector or something.
Yeah.
Because I had a house in Charlton where the well was, the well pipe was buried. You couldn't see it at
Yeah.
all. Not down very far, but it's
So,
definitely buried.
John?
Yes.
Thank you. So if this system, the new system is contingent on moving your well, then you don't have any problem with that.
Not at all.
No.
So then there's still a variance required though.
Correct.
yeah, it
And
would
it's
have to be
not,
like a conditional approval or
yeah,
something.
there would be conditional approval for this, but also the variance is because there's two other wells affected, they're 77 and 78 feet from the proposed system. So that would require variance as well.
Is there any, I'm sorry.
So I own the well across the street that's gonna be going in, I'm Taylor Bannon.
Okay.
So we've already looked into moving our well back, we've already actually been asked to move it back 10 feet, which we did,
Okay.
the initial. If we move it back any further, we're gonna be, too close to my neighbor's well, which is
Right.
right next to us on Pine Street, which we're actually probably within that 100 feet distance to his already. So, and my well is going in tomorrow,
His septic system?
correct?
So from
It's going in tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay.
So moving it back to 10 feet that you mentioned previously, would put it at the 78 feet, or would that
No.
make it 80 feet? 88 feet?
Where it is
88
right
feet.
now is you're saying it's at 70?
That's where
78.
the proposed plan showed it was 78 feet.
78.
Okay,
So you'd be
yeah,
like
so that's
88.
where it is,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Did you have concerns?
I mean, obviously, the more stuff you put into the ground there's a good chance that it could get into the water system. So, I mean, yes, I have concerns, but I don't really wanna prevent anybody from, bettering their property. I know an engineered system would be a lot better than a cesspool.
True. With the property, is the current number of bedrooms and the overall size of the house going to remain the same?
Yeah, because of the lot size, it has to stay
Okay, all right.
the same as it is, because it's a small
Alright.
lot.
What size system is it?
It's just a one bedroom.
Cause it's under 10,000, right?
Yeah, it's a 6,000 square foot lot. Or,
Small.
yeah, 0.15 acres.
So, another, I'm sorry, I'm
That's what you're here
tremendously
for.
knowledgeable about this, but, so the system that we have now is much more dangerous, basically, in terms of, bad things getting into the ground and not leached out, right? And the new system will strongly protect against that, right?
That's the general consensus
So-
from everything that I know, yes,
Right?
correct.
Should definitely.
So it would seem, if I was a neighbor, I would want the new system.
I'm good, as long
Is
as
there
the
anybody
wells
else?
relocated.
There's another
first.
gentleman here. I didn't want to cut you off. Are
No,
you all
no,
set?
I'm done.
Okay,
I'm done.
all right.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for showing up.
I just have, my name is Peter Hauger, I'm from 67, right next to Diane,
Okay,
okay? And my well is 70 some odd feet from,
77, yeah.
so, and this is just my question, because you people know the guidelines or whatever. Doesn't a tight tank eliminate all of that?
Sure it does, but then you get the cost of having to pump it out. Because I had a house where the cesspools failed and I had to switch over to a tight tank. So I didn't stay there for the house, but the new people moved in. And at the time, which was 24 years ago, the going rate from Berthium's was 7.5 cents a gallon to pump it out.
Mhm.
That was 25 years ago, so I can't imagine what it is now. But, so that means even if you have a low flush toilet, that's 10 cents. You do a load of laundry, $2, $3, you're better off going to the laundromat. And that's why tight tanks are, although I'm sure there's some around, is it South Charlton Reservoir? Yes. I'm sure there are by necessity. It can be a real burden financially, especially if you're there, all summer or year round. Yes.
So I just want to add to what he's saying, and yeah, the tight tank is expensive, but also it's kind of like a last resort. And if there was no other way to do it, then we would probably be considering the tight tank. But in this case, the leach field that is provided here should work without a problem. So that's why tight tank may not be the best fit for this application.
I don't have any, by the way, I don't have any problem with a well going in. I mean, that's not look at, we need drinking water, just gonna put a well in, I think that's fine. I mean, I put a well in, I needed a well. I mean, that's simple. But that was my only question.
Yep, okay,
That's a good question.
yep. Yes.
So, Mr. Chairman, in the past, we've granted variances up to, 51 feet or more, if you will. And in this case, it looks like the wells are 77 feet. Is this
More.
proposed, or is this in the ground? That's going in tomorrow.
Yeah, that might end up being 88 feet.
So it's gonna be, probably 75 feet or greater than the distance. I don't see a problem granting this variance contingent upon the decommissioning of the well that is less than the 50 feet.
Correct. I agree. Jim, you had something to add?
No, I'm saying Matt's exactly right.
Okay.
Tight tanks are only used as a very, very last resort.
Mhm. Yep.
So I would make a motion that we approve this plan
Contingent
contingent upon the decommissioning.
of the well at, what's the address of the,
63.
63 South Charlton Shore Road.
okay, 63 South Charlton Shore Road.
One other question, if I could?
Yes.
When you guys helped me put in my plans, I think one of the things we made sure of is the Vannons across the street moved their well out. And I think at that time, we only thought it was gonna be like 99 feet, or we thought it was really close to the 100, which was no problem. So I'm kind of surprised that it's not 98 or 99 versus what it is now.
So just to clarify, I think general guidelines in the state of Massachusetts is a 50-foot. But we take on the 100-foot, and Title V is taking on the 100-foot, but I
No, I
believe
just
that's
thought,
where
I
it
just
originally
thought
came from.
last time we came and we did this, I thought the measurement was higher. That's all my point is. I thought it was a
For the
much higher
guideline.
measurement, that's all.
Anything less than 100, you need a variance, and I would say that 8 or 9 or 10 years I've been on the board, we've given the variance as long as it's been over 51 feet. And I don't want to hold me to it, but I can't think of a scenario for that reason
Right.
alone why we denied a
Oh,
variance.
no, I'm not questioning. All I'm questioning is I thought last time it was further, I thought last time that the measurement came out further. That's why we ended up moving it out. So I was just questioning whether the measurement was accurate, whether it is further than what it stated, that's all.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So if our rules say 100 feet, but we give variances over 50, why don't we change our rules to 50? What's the reasoning for having it 100?
Title V is 100.
Because Title V is 100.
You can't change Title V.
Right.
Okay,
And-
alright, so,
And I guess the difference is just because this is a system upgrade and not new construction. So if this was new construction, I don't think we'd be allowing it. Because it's a existing, pre-existing non-conforming, basically grandfathered system. This
Okay.
would be an upgrade to a cesspool. That's why that's the difference. If it was new construction, I think the board would be heading down the path of it's not 100 feet and you can't
Okay.
do it. But because it's pre-existing non-conforming, we've allowed them in the past.
okay.
And in this case, it's gonna provide better groundwater conditions for the health of the abutters as
Yeah.
well. It should. I mean,
Alright.
no reason why it wouldn't.
I have one last question.
Yes, go ahead.
So, I just wanna make sure I heard it, that won't happen until his well is decommissioned, is that correct?
Right.
That's correct.
That's fine.
Right, and that'll be written in
Yeah,
to the
okay, that's fine.
the overall plan. So do we have a motion? Was there any other comments from
I
the
do
folks?
have one more question
Yes.
for you. You mentioned earlier about the well testing in the area around it. Should that have been something that had been done prior to this? Because we are currently, using the well there at the house. So just curious if
You're gonna have to test your
There
well
should-
tomorrow,
there should be
When
testing.
you drill it, you're gonna have
Yeah.
to test it, so there will be a tester on your well, cause you're gonna have to have it tested.
right, but I'm saying in order for her to have engineered a system, should there have been more testing in that area?
Well, it's on a, if I may, it's not gonna happen until they move, and then it wouldn't require that because it would be under the law. If it was, you gave a variance under if it's at 50 and you wanted, then we have tested in the past, but it's not gonna happen now. It's just delayed, the plans haven't even been approved.
Right.
And then this won't happen until the one well gets decommissioned, so.
If I may, and I believe that with the testing, I know that one time we were trying to chase a problem, and we were trying to do some testing, and it was recommended by the board if you wanted to test, because now you have a base rate, if someone puts a system in and now you're having more
Right.
problems. But it's not a requirement.
Okay.
So I think,
I think Matt made the motion.
Yep,
He's-
but you have,
I'll second it.
all right, so we made a motion to approve the variance of the leach field on South Charlton Shore Road, contingent upon the decommissioning of the abutters well. And Matt's made the motion, I just
Second.
restated it.
Yep.
Restated, second.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Thank you for coming, those of you who are here for that. Thank you.
Thank you. for letting us speak.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And if there's any questions at any time, just call either anybody here at the Board of Health or
We know, these guys are
Jim
good, I
Philbrook,
know.
yeah.
Well
They've
said.
got the records
Yeah.
and they know where everything is now, so we're
Thanks.
pretty well run here.
Good night, how are you?
Good night. Thanks
Yeah,
for
you have the other one, Jay, are you?
Sure? Oh, you had two tonight.
The Green Hill Engineering, 133 Nugget Drive?
Yeah, that's me right there.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
he couldn't make it tonight, Mark couldn't make it.
Oh,
Oh,
Ah.
never mind, Jay.
You can always
Sorry.
stick around, and I'm sure it'll be interesting.
And here's the folder for this other variance.
Mark didn't tell me to bring a fancy board to put the thing out on.
Well, actually, I was pretty
I do
impressed
have
with
it right.
that. It's-
Oh, is
yeah.
that not all? Okay, so I'm like, I got it all folded up. Should I open it? You guys.
Open it up, state your name, and
I'm Dean Nidry. This is my wife Jen, and we are looking to put a septic in. Oh, they're both the same. Okay.
And that's 133 Nugget Drive.
Correct.
It's for the well setback variance request.
so this plan was dated 9/18, is that one? 9/18?
918. Yep.
Same plan, okay.
So there was one well, I believe, that he said was close. My neighbor John, and he came over and spoke with me, and he said that he wasn't gonna have any issue. He says, I've lived here for 35 years. I know how the water drains here. That's not gonna go near my well. Perfect.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So what variance are you looking for?
Can you see
I'm really,
this?
like I said, Mark called me today, and he said, I'm not gonna be able to make it. Is there any way you can make it? And I said, do I have to do anything specific? He said, just bring the plan with you, and if they ask you any questions, do the best to answer them. I'm assuming that it's for my neighbor John, because I want to say his well was within 78 feet. I want to say, possibly.
John, you mind if I ask
One.
a couple
No, go
questions?
ahead, please do. 'cause-
Okay, so what's the deal? Is it new construction or is
No,
it pre-existing?
it's a pre-existing house.
Okay, so,
Yep.
and it's across the street?
Yeah, we have a right now we have a tight tank, like
Okay.
you guys were just talking about. It is a pain. It is
Yeah.
a very costly thing.
Yeah.
So we're looking to. He's going to utilize the existing tight tank,
Yep.
and he's going to put a 1,000-gallon tank beside that with a
Okay.
pump in it.
Yep.
We're going to pump it across the road
Mhm.
and up here because I own 100 feet by 100 feet across the street also.
Got it.
And the leach field is going to go right up here on the top.
That's why,
Okay.
because I'm looking, you're saying pre-existing and it says site.
Yeah,
And
but
There's nothing there.
It's just
There's
a
nothing
big
there.
lot.
Yeah. That's why. Yeah, because we own the lot across the street also. It came with the property when we bought it.
So I got a question. What kind of hoops did you have to go through to pipe this underneath the street? I know it's just a.
I guess it wasn't bad because it's not. They're not gonna have to dig the road up because it's short enough where they can. What
pipe
did he say?
system.
Mole it. He said,
Yeah,
there's a
okay.
mole,
Yeah.
and they just mole through it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I guess that was why it worked. That's all I said. Depending on how wide the road is, but it was just under the distance they could
And
do
it's
it on
a,
it.
it's a cul-de-sac, so
It's
not
a dead
like
end
you-
road. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So it's not too bad.
so, I'm trying to find, John, the distance from this existing well
Yeah,
to the proposed tank, and I'm not showing it on there, so I'm just trying to see. All right, never mind.
Oh, okay. As
Right
I said,
here,
honestly, I
got
saw
it.
it somewhere.
All right, so it's showing 70 feet provided, 100 is required. Looks like there's a second well, 55 feet, which is yours,
Oh, okay.
and then
I won't complain.
the proposed system does not meet the required setback from a wetland. 50 feet required, 25 feet provided. Okay.
so this would have to go through conservation as well.
Yeah, we already did. I have that right here for you.
Okay, and they
just
were
in
okay
case.
with that?
Yep, everything already went through. I just got to go down to the Register of Deeds and have it.
Can I see that?
Yep. That's cool. That's just the directions.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe that meeting was on the 3rd.
Is there a DEP file number on this?
There's a number.
I have the one for your order of conditions.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it. Mark left you out to dry. on
Yeah, he
this
did.
one.
He called me today. He's like, "Is there any chance you can make it?" I'm like, "Yeah." Do I need to do anything? He's like, "No, you just really gotta
Maybe
go."
it's in here.
We even have your house on, right now, we're looking at, so, technology.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Okay, so, John, what I was trying to do was, we have a letter from the conservation agent, has a DEP number on it, but it does not have an address that matches what we're doing here. So to me, this is throw it out the window because we can't connect it with anything. Okay, what I do now have on the W Wetlands Protection Agency Form 5 is the applicant's name, their address, 133 Nugget Drive, as well as the provided DEP number, 128-1706.
there it is.
Which is this.
Yep.
So I feel
Okay.
confident that this letter goes with this house and everything is,
Yeah.
you know, okay with that. So I just wanted, that was one thing that we had to get through.
I was like, "Oh," it looked like you were like there was something missing. I'm like, "Oh, don't tell me there's something missing."
Well, I'm not seeing anything missing, but
That's good.
just dotting i's and crossing t's, if you will.
Yep.
Do you know if conservation's meeting tonight?
You can look
Todd's,
it up.
Todd's still in his office,
Todd
are we
is
going to
Is
get
Todd in
him?
his office?
I can ask.
Because we did send a bunch down to Concom, that one we got back from him. You want me to go and get him? Or do you need to ask him a question?
Yeah.
Want me to go get him? I'll run down the hall if you'd like.
Think we can get him on speakerphone?
He's not one to answer his phone too often, but maybe he'll answer for you.
So, where's the meeting? Second and third Wednesday,
He's on Wednesdays.
yeah. So they won't be meeting tonight. But I can try to get Todd if you want.
He's got him.
I'm calling
He's
him.
calling
Oh,
right
you
now.
got, okay.
See if he answers. If he's in the hall, maybe we'll take a walk. If he doesn't answer.
So, is that your house there?
No, this is the one just before me. I'm on the other side. The leach, the
Todd.
field is gonna go on the
Hey,
outside now.
At a Board of Health meeting.
Yep.
And I
that's
have
it.
it-
Yep. And then it's gonna go
Yes,
right across
please.
the road.
So it's gonna go like,
Yeah,
Yes,
it's gonna
please.
cross the road right around where the driveway
Thank
ends
you.
there,
right?
and it's gonna go straight up, and then the leach field's gonna be right up over there on the right side.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
You mentioned other wells.
Yeah.
How close are they?
One was 55, which is getting pretty tight.
That's your well, at 55?
I think that's what he said. Yeah, I was gonna
That's
say I
what
didn't know that either. He didn't. I didn't.
Variance number 1, the proposed system does not meet the required setback from a well. 70 feet provided, and that's the.
That must be my neighbor
it's
just
the
after
Nelson
me.
household.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
all it
That's
says.
John. Yep. John Nelson. Yep.
Okay, and then, so I'm assuming, doesn't have the address, but it's probably this one up here.
That's the one just past my house. Yep. On the same side as mine.
The same side as your house, or is it the,
Same side as
on the
my
lot
house.
where yours is going?
Same side as my house.
Okay.
He's the closer one. The other guy's well's on the other side of his house, so it's not.
Okay. And then the system.
And my well's right below John, so that must be why mine's 50 feet. I didn't even think about that when he told me John was 70. I never read the part about mine.
Yeah, it's 55 feet.
But yeah, it is right below his, so I can see that getting closer to the leach
So would that mean that we would
field.
have to move ours?
No.
No,
He said-
not
what'd he say?
necessarily.
Okay.
Yeah, Todd, have a seat.
Thank you for answering and coming down.
We figured if you're only here on Wednesdays, you wouldn't be here, but thanks for showing up.
What do we got?
Okay, so, we had some questions, Matt specifically had some questions about this, because of the vegetated wetland, where it is relatively close to the new leach field, but also, and this is probably out of your jurisdiction, but the setback from neighboring wells, including this gentleman's well. So,
If I may.
Oh.
yes,
So, Todd, he's gone through your process. at
This is a
Concom.
septic upgrade.
Septic
Yep.
upgrade.
Yep.
Big tank to leach field.
Yeah. And so he's building across the street. This has gone through your process, but the system does not meet the required setback from a wetland. 50 feet required, 25 feet provided.
Yep.
We just want to make sure that you're A-okay with that, or hear any concerns that you have if you're not okay with that.
So the reason they put the septic across the street, right?
Oh,
It's your
Yeah.
house. It's, oh, yeah,
I
it's your
came by
house.
today, pick up the
Yeah,
fence.
I'm like that for a
You're
minute.
expecting him to look over and
Yeah,
see
I'm
an
like, wait a
engineer.
minute, this is his house. So here's Nugget Drive and here's the pond here. The where the house is, this is where the whatever kind of system they got out there now. I have no idea what it is.
It's just a tight-
Probably
yeah.
like a little
Tight tank.
cesspool or
Tight tank,
something, and it's
yeah.
like right in this area here. That's not gonna work. And anywhere on this lot, you got the well, you got the lake.
Mhm.
So they pushed it up and across the street, and they don't have enough area to the wetlands. So you got to have 50 feet. So instead, they put in this poly barrier, right? Proposed 40 mil poly barrier.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep, so there's
So
the
what?
details.
So what that's doing is, instead of letting the, I'm sorry, I'm speaking with my
No,
hands. It just seems
that's
like
all
it
right.
might make it easier. If this is the leach field, the water wants to go that way, and then it'll hit this. It's called a shower curtain.
Oh, yeah.
It'll hit your shower curtain and it stays in the tub. Does that make sense for
Sure.
everybody? So instead of the water, that's called breakout, when it would leave the ground. You know what I mean? It would break out of the ground and
Go straight to the water.
and then over to the wetlands.
Yeah.
So these guys put the 40 mil poly barrier around, and that would be the
Diverse the other
about the
way.
best they could do for that, because they kept a real system, a soil absorption system and stuff like that. Offset distances to the wells, that comes under you
Our
guys.
jurisdiction, sure.
We looked at it. It's been a little while since I've done title. I don't memorize Title V anymore. But if you're within 100 feet of a neighboring well, they test the wells and they get a base model of what the water quality is. They put the septic in and then they test it. I think it's quarterly or every 6 months, something like that. We'd have to ask Jim Malley. So they would test them neighboring wells to see.
Charlton doesn't do that.
Well, that's cold.
Mm.
Anytime, yeah, it's part of. It's in there somewhere.
Is it?
Yeah. Then
So-
you gotta do. You know what I mean? They gotta test the base test, and then they test it again in a
Yeah.
period of time. And if it doesn't come up hot, there's no need to keep testing it.
Right. Charlton typically hasn't done that, but, no, we just wanted to confirm with you on this, because it's a Title V setback wetland question. And, so we were just putting your puzzle of the pieces of the puzzle with
Together.
this, but we just figured we'd reach out to you and make sure that it was okay with you.
The only two choices they have on rebuilding or reconstruction is a tight tank or some type of subsurface sewage disposal system. And if you can get something in the ground, code says, do that.
Right, sure.
So they can get, again, I'm not the design engineer, you know what I mean, we'd have to talk to Jim Malley about that side of it.
Mhm.
But this met those requirements, and with that, I call it the shower curtain, the 40 mil impenetrable barrier there. That's about the best fit we could do.
Does this go all the way around it?
All the way around.
Okay,
Yep.
all right.
So the reason it goes all the way around is because
It
it's
makes it go deeper in the ground.
well, it's a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
So this is a raised system, so it looks like a loaf of bread.
Right.
So any way around, you'd have breakout. So they got to
Mhm.
keep the breakout in the
Okay.
in the pan, in the bread pan.
Mhm.
That think of that as that shower curtain. It's like a little pan to hold all
Okay.
that water in. That makes sense.
Sure.
Appreciate the household analogies.
Trying to put it into
Effort not
and like I'm
engineers.
just trying to put it into normal speak. You guys don't use words that engineers use all the time.
No, we don't. Matt, this came out of here. I don't want to lose anything.
No, that came
Yeah, that's what my
Yep, so that goes with the,
That's
that goes with his order of
Yeah.
conditions that tells them,
Yeah, so I'm getting that
What
dropped
to
off
do.
on Thursday, so I should be back Thursday or Friday with it stamped for you.
That's
Yeah,
the
let's
other-
do it.
that was the previous one.
Yeah, we need that file.
Yep.
Thank you, Tom.
so that's square, you guys are all square.
I
with
think
it?
so. Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
Great, yep, if you have
That's
any
good.
other questions, just shoot me a call. Let
Okay.
me know.
Okay.
I'm down.
Thanks again.
You got
Hopefully
it.
you're
Thank
all
you.
set for tonight.
Did any of you guys have any questions? Awesome.
but I'm
No,
gonna
they're-
call you if
they're
I
very
Perfect.
good.
Awesome, have a great night.
All right,
See you,
thanks,
Todd.
Tom.
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that, a little bit more discussion. Can you see if you have any, envelope, certified mail receipts? That means that your abutters have been notified?
Oh, yeah, there's a list on this thing for that, I believe. Property of owners acknowledgement, oh no, that's owners.
It's there, 'cause I read
No, I
everybody.
definitely saw
'Cause
it.
I had no idea
I
who
couldn't
our
believe how many
neighbors
people
were.
they notified. They notified a lot. I talked to all my neighbors about it already, too. They told me I didn't have to do anything. Why? Oh, there we go. You probably wouldn't have known what all this was.
So what I'm looking for is
The cards
the,
that say.
the cards.
Oh, the green card thing?
Yeah.
He said that he didn't, oh, hold on. He said that he talked to somebody here, and
Okay.
that I didn't need the actual official copy of it, but she did send me over an email with, I wanna say maybe a picture of it or something. I
So-
talked to Carol today, here we go. Hearing.
I think Carol talked to Andrea, and she has the green cards.
Yeah, she
But
sent it over here,
But
I
she said
thought.
she was gonna give them the list tonight to bring, but she has the green cards if the board requested. I wasn't here in the office, Andrea told me about it before she left.
So in that
I might
case,
have it
would we,
right here,
would we
yeah. Oh,
require
BLF
the
green
hard
card.
copies? Or would we require the hard copies or just a copy?
There we go. That's what you're looking for.
That's
huh?
what we're looking for.
Alright. Yeah, he did mention that, I'm sorry, I forgot about that part.
You got more of them?
101.
So you got just Nelson, that's probably all you need.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, she just sent me over, she said she was gonna send me over something, and she said that it should be okay that I didn't need the hard copy, because she talked to, I think you're right, I think she did say
Yeah.
Andrea. I think you're right.
Say that again?
She assured Andrea that she had all the essential information, but
I mean, I can show the rest of it.
So, Mr.
Andrea, hi Andrea, yeah, it says, she sent it to Andrea.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the variance request for 133 Nugget Drive, for the following variances. Number one, setback from a well required 70 feet provided, and that's gonna be for the Nelson residence. I did see the Nelson green card, that means they were certified mail and they were aware of the meeting tonight. The number two variance would be 55 feet provided, which is the homeowner's own well. And then with the blessing of conservation,
Is that
that-
the third?
the third variance,
Okay.
meaning through the conservation, does not meet the 50-foot wetland requirement, is 25 feet provided. The only, so I make a motion that we accept the variances as requested. I would like to, before anything went out, I'd like the board physically have the green card for our records,
Just like pick it up at Mark's and just bring it over to here?
because it goes in the file.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I can do that,
Yeah.
that's not a problem.
even if Carol
I can-
scans them and sends it over as a picture, we'll attach it to the file. In case there's
He's got
question.
it on
Yeah.
there, so he.
All of them though, whatever.
I only
You want all
believe
of
the
them?
ones required,
Okay, the one?
Yeah.
yeah. This is the abutters list, but that's a broader range of
Yep.
what needs to be required for this.
For this-
Yeah,
for
we'd
this
like to have it in the
variance.
file, cause
Yeah,
5
no,
years
I
from
can
now,
stop by, I
10
gotta
years
drop a
from now,
check off
someone
there
else
tomorrow
buys it.
anyway, so I can drop a check off, grab that, and then just stop by here and
Sure,
bring it here, that's fine,
all right.
that's not a problem.
So Matt's
Yeah.
made a motion. Kathleen, any other questions? or-
No, I'm good, so I'd second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You're all set.
Excellent,
There we go.
thank
Good
you
to
very
go.
much.
Good luck, and so what is it, what's the cost to pump out?
Every time, 250.
250 for
250,
how?
it's a 2,000, well, it's a
Every month.
25 gallon,
Yeah,
25,000 gallon
yes.
tank, but it usually, you know,
At
once it hits
$2
2,000, yeah, 2,500, I mean, yeah, once it hits 2,000, the alarm goes off, so, you know,
you have
if
a
I don't
remote
call it.
alarm,
Yeah.
It's a
It's a sub pump
flash
thing.
and
It
also
goes on.
a-
Oh, it's loud.
and
It's
a
like a
loud.
fire alarm.
Yeah.
The thing is loud. The first time I went out to get it, I was like, "What is it?"
Every month.
Yeah, it's
works,
bad.
because if it don't work, it's even worse.
Well, yeah, 'cause then that comes right out the driveway. The first time,
Yes.
one time I unplugged it,
250.
250. Yeah. So I mean,
I
I unplugged it the first time
I
it went
could've
off, and I
paid for
forgot.
this
And next
by
thing you
now.
know, it's coming out of the driveway.
Something must have happened there. Maybe somehow they acquired the land across the street that they didn't have originally, or something
Yeah.
along the lines. Because I'm surprised
They
that it
didn't-
has a holding tank now.
Right, right. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
How
that
long
was
have
one
you
thing when I
lived
bought it. Little over 2 years now. July was 2 years, so
Okay.
it's been a little while, and this is all we've been waiting to go and try to do is get this done.
well, maybe that was the quick fix at the time.
Well, I was thinking, well, the guy that originally built the place he's investing, and he bought it as an investment. So I think he put whatever as cheap as possible as he could, because he wasn't living there; he was renting it.
Right.
So he just figured it into the cost, I guess, you
Yeah.
know, to the renter.
And,
But-
and he owned the lot across the street
Yep.
where this is?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, he owned it, but like I said, I think he wanted, like, if he were to do a septic, would it have been more expensive than
Right.
putting a
Oh,
tight
yeah,
tank?
sure, yeah.
There you go. That's
Tight
what they
tank,
even like with the
5,000.
furnace, instead of putting a cast iron one in the furnace. I found out when I had the furnace cleaned the first time, he's like, oh, it's just a steel furnace, not a cast iron. He goes, you're not going to get as much time out of it. Everything he did a little cheaper.
Yeah, he did.
But I'm going, I'm trying to get it there.
Yeah, you get it.
Hopefully, in a little while it'll be a
Well, get that green
full-fledged-
card over and.
All right, yeah.
then
Well,
you'll
I'll
be
pick
all
that up
set.
tomorrow when I drop the
Good
check
luck.
off, and I'll drop it back off.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you, folks. Have a good night.
Yes.
Take care.
See you later.
Don't wanna lose that. do
No,
we?
Andrew will hang me, so we'll get those cards for you.
Okay. That's it for new business. Ongoing business. We have DEP certification of lab testing. Do we wanna get into that tonight?
I'd like to talk about it a little bit if we could.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
So, I feel as though we're leaving that company out to dry, because I do believe they're legal to operate in the state.
They don't have a determination yet from DEP?
You know, Jim?
At the board's request, I did call Marty Suberg.
Yes.
I gave him 5 days, and I call him every 5 days and leave the same exact message that my board has requested, because this is a lab that's in Charlton that people would like to use for convenience. That, do you have anything I can bring to the board? Have you made any ruling, or he has not returned my call, will not return it.
So, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Thank you, Jim.
Yep.
So, I feel as though they are legal to operate, and the issues which DEP gave that guy were crystal clear, and it was the method with the 100 mil.
Correct. And they said that they were going to adhere to the.
He did
higher
change it
test
already.
samples, yes. Okay.
And there was another thing that was one of the complaints, was that it was picking up one of the contaminants in there, yet when the state did it, it also, there was some variances from
yes.
what the state said. So the state said that, they were non-compliant for this, but yet the state's own results came back tainted, if you will. And he gave us that sheet that night, and I asked us to save it. I know, hopefully we have it somewhere. I was gonna have Gary Mag look at that. I don't know if you know the sheet that I was talking about. It was
That was his.
That was his, and he said, here, I asked for a copy of it. And he said, no, you can have this one.
I'll have to check. I think we saved everything and scanned it into
Yeah.
ETL Labs.
So the reason why I wanted to save that was because I certainly can't read lab reports to that level
No, it's-
by any means.
Yeah.
But if indeed the state had the same, same
Mhm.
conclusion, with all due respect, if the state was wrong as well, I feel as though until they make a determination, as long as he abides by that 100 mil ruling, I don't know. I'd like to discuss it. I think myself, I would be willing to let them continue until the determination, because I don't think we're being fair to that company.
So, through the chair,
Yes.
what if we got that report and gave it to Gary and see what he said?
That's why I want Gary to confirm, because this guy said even the state has it wrong, and I didn't want to get into it with the guy. But if Gary says he's right, the state had it. It was I forget the exact issue, but there was like 3 things in there. One of them wasn't a big deal, but one of them had what I'm talking about in that letter from DEP. One of the complaints of the one was the 100 mil, and then the other one was what I'm talking about. And he had the test results. He said even the state has this one. And so that's what I just wanted Gary to confirm, that this guy was indeed saying what it was. If we had the letter or the results, I would be able to explain what I'm trying to explain.
You know,
Because that water
you're
thing
talking
goes
about, I
right
would've
over my
grabbed it,
head.
I'm not sure, we scanned all that information in the ETR lab stuff,
Mhm.
but to speak on behalf of ETR when they were here, you're right. If it's only for equine and coliform and they've agreed to go up, I think that it's causing harm to the business, and I think that DEP's had more than adequate time to make a
Yeah,
decision.
it's been months.
It's been long, and if Mr. Suberg's not willing to get back and say, hey, I've made a decision, then I think as long as we make sure if they bring it into this office that they've tested up to the 100, and that was the only issue they told me, and they told Matt on the phone, that there is no risk to public health in that case. So, to hold a whole company, especially if it's a Charlton business, and they've agreed to comply, and they've waiting for a determination, could take another 6 months.
I don't think they were from Charlton, but
They have I thought it was local, Charlton.
he
Yeah.
came out of, this guy came out of Sterling, but I don't think they're local. But it doesn't matter anyway.
Either way, it's a
Yeah.
business that's trying to do business. I think that.
And they've got testing done by residents within this town
Yeah.
that some
Well,
people could have their test nullified.
Like Steve Sylvester said, he likes to use them because they're quick. It's easier for him than having to drop it in. And what happens when you put it in a postage and put it in a bag and send it out? You know what I mean?
Well, and then you're not in compliance with them. We talked about this last time.
Yeah.
And
So
it does seem like that particular company is in more compliance than some of the ones that we're allowing.
They test too. Their testing is a little more stringent than other companies, as he stated. And I won't mention any of the names that he stated, but certainly trying to get. I think Mr. Suberg just won't talk about it because it's a pending litigation. It's a legal issue that he has to rule on
Which
as
is
a
fine.
judge.
And then,
But I expect at least a call back that I could not respond, so I could let the board know he did get back to me. He just said he would not make any comments at it this time. But
So, Mr. Chairman, I feel as though until we hear different from the state, I think I would like to rescind our motion not to use them and amend that motion to allow them to continue to test with the stipulation that when it comes to coliform and E. coli, that they use that 100 mil method. And then I'm okay with that.
I'm in agreement with you on that. This is, and for the record, we should state the name. This is ETR.
Is it ETR or ETR?
TR Labs.
ETR Labs. So
ETR.
Kathleen will give you your
I'm
2
just looking
cents.
for ETR labs. And I just wanted to see where they were. Should have done this before.
It's all right. The World Series has not started yet, so
Hey,
got
Then
some
my
time.
granddaughter's
And we're
soccer
local.
game is on at 7, so, here in Leominster, and,
Leominster.
Yeah, you were close.
There,
I'm just gonna have to, abstain on this one, because I just don't feel confident, but the motion will still pass, so
okay.
I'm gonna move an abstention.
All right, so you've made a motion, she's abstained. All in favor?
Aye.
So 2 to 1.
So you're going to second that motion?
I will
Okay.
second and approve it,
Okay.
under the conditions that Matt stated. And if for some reason the DEP comes back and said, look, no, we are not gonna allow whatever they decide.
Well, they may come back and say we've taken away the certification. Then what do you do? But right now,
Well,
they
it's a
are
different
considered a
topic.
certified lab.
Yeah.
So, did you wanna contact the gentleman, I can't recall his name, from ETR and tell him?
I will
that just-
contact ETR and say that, and I will contact the well drillers also tomorrow and make sure that Andrea and Kim make calls to everyone and let them know that we will be accepting their. And well, ETR can make that, but I don't know how far you want us to go.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So there's the well drillers in town that are consistently getting well permits. We know who they are.
Yep.
There's also water quality experts in town that I just want to let them know one way or another that this is an approved method. I don't know if it's affected some of the other water testing companies.
We haven't received any more people coming in with tests from any kind of documentation from ETR Labs. That was before the board. So it hasn't affected them yet, but I'm sure people haven't refrained from using them because of the letter from the DEP. Regardless if it was, the letter was there and then they challenged it, so they were back on, but still the letter was harmful.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think he's raising his hand. Did you raise your hand?
Well, it's just, it affects us big time. As septic Title V inspectors. So,
What does?
So you use
Water
ETR?
tests.
Yeah.
anytime a septic's within 100 feet of a well, we get a test for it. So, don't forget us.
I'm glad you're here.
Is that why you stopped in?
No, I
No.
went to pull some permits, but I guess
Oh.
Andrew's not here.
No, she goes on
Did
the
you
floor.
do you use that company?
Yeah,
ETR.
I used them forever.
Mhm.
So, had great luck with them. They're a great company. Yeah.
Did you stop using them
In Charlton and Sturbridge.
for the reason that we're talking
Yep.
about?
Yeah,
Every other town, no problem.
no problem.
Register, we just stopped also.
The other towns don't have any Board of Health.
Yeah.
Is that real? Are you
I'm
serious?
serious.
Yeah, somewhat, yeah.
Well, they don't have
I
one
should
as,
say that.
as
It's-
regulated as ours.
It's a very catch-22 topic. I mean, I've
Yeah.
had numerous talks with Jim about
Okay.
it. So.
All right. Well, we'll leave it at that. All right.
But I don't know. I don't know what the company. They've always treated me well, so. couldn't-
I will make sure that proper notification's made, and I will call ETR personally myself in the morning.
If we do get some determination from DEP one way or another, can you just send out a blast
Yeah.
email to the three of us?
I
just so
believe
we're-
me, I've been adamant about calling him. He's probably sick of hearing my voice, but
Yeah. Well, just in case, because we probably won't have another meeting for 3 weeks at least.
normally if I had any questions about anything else, he would probably answer the call, because he always been very approachable, but in this case, I think he stayed away because he's actually the decision maker in this case.
All right. So,
He's ghosting you.
He is,
Yeah,
I got
that's
ghosted.
right.
are we done with DEP certification for, okay. So, next ongoing business is Flint Road landfill.
The Burlingame road testing.
Yes.
The only people that responded were Andrew and Sherry Zabo, responded yes to testing. That's
Okay.
on 129 Burlingame Road. The other two did not respond even after a second letter.
Okay, so,
So we went on to 137 and 147 Burlingame, which were the next in line.
yep,
And we're waiting, we sent 2 letters. The last one was sent on October 2nd, and that was the last letter. And on 8/22 of 18, the letter was sent out. So we only have 1 response. Gary said he'd rather wait, go to the next 2
sure,
until we get 3, so we can do it all at once.
correct.
agree.
Yes, agreed.
Otherwise, he's
So
more
what is-
time, more money. It's
What time frame are we giving the folks to respond? 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks? Is there?
well, we waited a couple weeks, and if it didn't respond, we sent another letter.
Okay,
We felt that would at least, something might have happened.
yeah,
People get letters, they think, I'm not opening it, and they leave it, so I didn't know if I had to personally knock on their door, but there's no one there during the day.
well, you can speculate all you want, but the bottom line is, what we're offering is free comprehensive well testing, and if
Yep.
there's a problem, the town's gonna make their water right.
So-
if they choose to either ignore it or not respond, we'll go on to the next person.
That's what we did, so we had it all lined up, as we said,
Yep.
and rotated, so we just went on to the next 2. Gary said that was probably the best thing to do, because those are the most,
Yeah.
so we'll wait to hear, we'll give another week,
Perfect.
and then I'll let the board know.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Matt.
How's the mowing?
Gary said they did an excellent job. He has pictures and a report for the board. He didn't come to this meeting, but he wanted to assure that they were they patched everything. He did proper oversight. They called him when they would be there. He went there. He said they did an excellent job.
So what do we need then to pay them? Do we have to have the physical report and Gary Magnuson?
Well, we want to make
here?
sure that Gary's assured that they've done a good job, and then they would just send us a bill,
Okay,
and then the board would sign.
okay,
Have they done that?
I don't believe it's a bill yet, no?
okay. So do we need to meet, I guess that's where I was going, do we need
No.
to meet and then approve it, or can we just?
I could sign it as long as the board's okay. I mean, they did their due diligence.
Yeah, you've been through this
to get-
before, I think as long as Gary's report says, hey,
I know that
this is really
the
good.
board was waiting to make sure Gary was satisfied that they met all the requirements that the board set forth for the mowing. There was a few other things to do.
Okay, yes.
You know, did they mow 54 as well?
They were doing that the next day. It took 2 days. They cleared that spot that they were talking about. But Gary's going to type up a narrative after address to the chair and to the board on what they've done and how he did the oversight. So we should get that from him.
So, Mr. Chairman, we had a lump sum price on that, and then the only variable pricing was the scalping, and I believe it was like
$500?
$350 or $500 per every 2. So if there was 6 spots, then we would have had it 3 times.
Yeah, those are repaired.
Those are repaired. So
Yep.
that's the only, as long as that was consistent with Gary's number of scalpings, if there was 4 or 5, it wasn't like 30 of them, it was.
They were right on top of that. He said they did a good job. He knows what he's doing. He said you can tell he's been on landfills. He even actually marked all the wells so Gary could see them easier.
Good.
Yeah.
Nice. Good.
So I make a motion, we approve that bill and send it off as soon as we receive it.
As long as Gary's report is favorable, and sounds like it is, then I'm
He was
good.
very happy.
Okay.
I'll
Good.
second that motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll get that out as soon as we get it.
Motion passes.
Um,
As long as you got the floor, Jim, you might as well continue.
Well, the H-Foot Road, Berry Corner Road, I've been attending the monthly meetings. We've been going back and forth. There was some issues with, of course, odor on there that I did speak to Mary Jude. I'm not sure if I mentioned to the board that she personally called me. And we had 17 in one day confirmed odor responses.
And this was during daylight hours, because I know that there was some, based on some emails that I saw, there was odors at night when there shouldn't be odors, because they're supposed to.
Well, they didn't use
cover.
daily cover, supposedly. There is a notice of non-compliance. They were written up.
Yeah,
There was
that.
also, I met with Andy Pelletier from Southbridge and asked if there was proper oversight by the landfill monitor, whether they were doing daily cover. And I'm not sure if I got a correct answer. He wasn't sure. So Mary Jude believed they weren't using daily cover, and the misters were not in service.
Does the Board of Health oversee anything out there?
They have a landfill monitor. Her name is Anna Smith. She's there to assure that at the end of the day that everything is closed.
So she's up there on a daily basis.
She is actually only there for 3 days. She actually resigned from her job because her job was eliminated because the landfill is closing, and she's paid for by Casella. But she's there for a temporary basis
Okay.
until that east side slope. I don't know if anyone's been by there. They can tell you is wide open. They peeled it back, and they're adding lots of trash.
So is that where the odors are coming from?
Absolutely, those are trash odors. And one of the boots was broken on the
I
gas
saw
collection.
that.
So.
They have 80 of the vent pipes for
Mhm.
with the boots. I saw, I think it's 80.
They didn't notice that one of the boots was
Yeah.
had been broken. But I know I've been sitting up there and traveling there. There's been a lot of trucks, going up, but that's soon going to end. I talked to Tracy, but I've had some paperwork here that I left for the board, but I can talk about that after. But certainly there was a problem with the buses also, which they said they couldn't get by. So
Because of the construction.
construction and not knowing whether they had proper, length or the width to get by in the buses. So they, someone called back and said, we can't get through, and the parents had to take the kids to school because the buses didn't make it. They're working families, you gotta get your kid off to school, it takes a while, and now you're late for work. When the buses, there's a police officer there, they always assured that the road was open. We had an emergency meeting on Friday at 185 Gulfwood to discuss that issue with the school buses. They're gonna make sure that the police officer's out of the car and directs the bus to come through, and that there's adequate space for them to get by. Because they didn't feel comfortable that there was adequate
Sure.
an area to go off the soft
Safety
shoulder.
issue, yeah.
Buses, they go through strict training, and if they feel they're gonna drive into the shoulder, they won't go by.
Yeah.
They have the safety of the kids
Sure.
so they won't do that.
That's paramount. Sure.
Especially with all the rain,
Mm.
shoulders are muddy, so they wanna be on the hard road.
Yeah. Agreed.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
So, for a long time, years, we've had a hard time with Casella and the residents and the situation as a whole. And it seems like no one's doing anything, and I know there's been some feedback through the emails about that situation. But that, when Jim said they got written up, that letter from Mary Jude was very strong.
Mhm.
And I do think that DEP is taking that complaint log pretty seriously right now. And it's not making the smell go away, and there's no magic wand, but I just thought it was a very, very strong letter from DEP, yeah, and that letter was no joke. I'm certainly glad I'm not on the other end of that letter, by all means.
Well, it'd be nice if they could stop the odors, because what the folks that are, some of them are out here in the audience today, what they're going through on, you know, even at night inside their house,
It's terrible.
it's criminal. It's what
Melissa
it
just
is.
sent out another issue just this weekend.
Especially where they can mitigate it. I'm just
Again,
aghast.
Mark, sorry.
Yes. And while we're on the subject, thank you for including us on your emails. I don't like getting them as far as I'm upset that you're having to deal with this, but absolutely continue to copy us. I think you get copied on these from the wives.
I got it right away.
All right.
I do make a phone call, and they, same thing, is they're doing what they have to do to quickly close that up, and the east slope is, and when you peel back an old liner and you disturb old trash and you don't do daily cover, you're gonna have a horrible odor, especially with the cold air now. The odors are more prevalent when there's colder air mass.
I remember you telling me that seems so different than we expected.
John, did you have something to say?
Yeah, it's not related to that, but who do residents call for damage to their property from blasting? We have one,
Call the fire department.
our fire department?
The fire department, call the fire department. The permit for blasting is issued under the fire code, and they have a fire detail, and they do redundant seismograph readings. And what they do is they do a pre-blast survey of your home, and if you feel you're aggrieved or there's damage, then you have to call them, and then the Department of Fire Services will send an investigator.
So just call the fire department.
Call the fire department, they're the one that issued the permit, they do oversight.
So,
Deputy Chief Kantara will be in charge of that.
I just want to say it out loud to say it, but John, there was issues going on when there was a sand pit in town and they were blasted, and the residents were very upset about it. And I know one of the guys got up and they were talking about the stress from the blasting and all that, and he said he contacted his insurance company, and he said his insurance company canceled them altogether. So,
Wow.
you know, so I don't beware.
Homeowners policy?
Homeowners policy. So I don't know who to contact. I don't know if I'd contact them or not, but it was just something that I had heard.
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I would, you right now, I would date and do a video of your home, that it's in good pristine condition of your basement, there's no cracks that are existing, and do a video and have a timestamp, and that's your protection. They will go into certain houses they feel that are most going to be affected, and they will videotape in a pre-blast survey that there's any existing damage, so later if there's a suit filed or a lawsuit for damages, that they have proof. So they choose to house them randomly, and if they don't exceed the decibel rating of the tolerance that's set forth under the fire code, like when they blast, sometimes it's too big a blast. It's not confined, and it'll go outside the sources. This is gonna be a small blast in the road, but it will ripple that road.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Jim, do you know if the seismographs that they take, if you could request one as a homeowner?
Once the fire department receives it, it's part of that public record.
No, but I'm saying I know they're getting close to blasting into my house. Can I say, hey, I want one at the end of my yard?
I would have to say, in my past doings as a fire inspector, over years of doing that, if someone requested it, I would make a copy, give it to them. Because it is public record, you're a town official, any information that you have pertaining to any of the residents is part of the public record.
No, what I'm saying is the
The
actual
tape
unit.
comes out. No, the
No.
tape comes out of it.
Yeah, but the unit that they use to measure
Yeah.
the seismograph, they don't put them at every single residence. They put them at different locations.
Different locations.
Can the residents request one on their land?
No.
They can't. So
No.
in
It's
this case, the
decided-
blasting company can put them where they feel as though
Well, they
would-
hire a separate company to do that,
Mhm.
and they come in and they put them where it's required under the CMR2. So they would say that it has to be here because the blast, they read what the blast, I don't know how they figure that out, but I've dealt with this many years. A lot of residents, if they complain, they have in the past put one there, but it never even read anything. So they know where to exactly place them. according to the blast and how it's going to shoot, and how, and they have to put, blasting rock in there, and they have to cover it. They're gonna mat it with tires, the big. But I think if you complained enough, then the fire chief requested it, but, those are expensive.
Because this is a unique situation where many times it's the same project that's blast, reblast, reblast, so the same residents are always being affected.
Yep.
This is going to be going down the street, and so it's going to affect different residences as this thing progresses.
Yep.
So I was just wondering, if I know that I'm getting close to the blast zone, I mean, could they call the fire department and say, hey, I'd like one in my yard?
The fire department can't dictate to the blasting company what they're gonna do. They do it in accordance because they know where to select them. I, in the past, have said, listen, this person's called me 50 times. They'll put one there, and they'll show me after they didn't read. But certainly they put it there rather than have a problem later to mitigate that problem. But those machines have to be calibrated and are expensive, and they only have 2. I'm not sure how many they're gonna have. So you have to put them in the exact area so you can get the proper reading. If they put them in an area they know they're not going to get a reading, then they're not going to be in compliance, and they'd be out of compliance, because the fire department's here with a 25-point checklist for the blasting. Did they do this, and it has to be recorded each day.
Okay.
And they staple those readings when it comes out of the machine, and they have to look to see if there's any exceedances. They have to notify the Department of Fire Services. They'll send an inspector down.
Well, we're getting another education tonight. Thank you, Jim.
That's something I know a lot about. So.
Yes, a lot more than I do.
So they could ask. It doesn't hurt to ask. If you felt you needed and you wanted one, but they may deem that that's not the most ideal spot. But who knows? They might have excessive machines, but those machines will have to be calibrated. They're very sensitive, and they want to put them in the right spot. And if they don't, they're going to have a third one, because they do redundant ones. In case one doesn't read, then you don't have any readings, and then how do you dispute that there was an exceedance? So they do redundant readings, one on each end. But it doesn't hurt to ask. You can ask Deputy Chief Cantara. He's going to be in charge of that. He's acting as the fire inspector on this part. And there will be a firefighter doing a blast detail. And that's something we discussed. Each blast, there'll be a firefighter there to make sure they're in compliance.
Thank you.
I could get you the readings after if you needed them, certainly.
That was driveway
And
damage and
sure.
mail post damage, so it's like right at the street,
Okay.
so they were just asking.
Any damage, you should fill out a damage report. The fire department has them, and fill that out as soon as possible, and they would submit that.
Anything else on H-Foot Road, Berry Corner Road, Eleanor Lane?
The water line is moving ahead quickly. They ran into a situation of blasting, but as they're moving it along, Ledlow Construction.
So they're on schedule?
They're on schedule. The blasting has slowed them up, but certainly they have closed that end of H-Foot Road. Is it still closed? They open it up at 3 o'clock. They close at 7. They open up at 3.
As far as I know, it is
It's-
issues that I've been having because I run my business down there. Is they seem to switch back and forth sometimes, and I got customers calling me that they
Get it all
can't
the way
get
around.
there and they won't let them through. I almost had to drive down the road to meet people. So it would be nice to know if they're gonna have a section of road open, that's always gonna, if they, you know what I mean?
Well, we discussed about better information out to the residents. They're gonna be notifying and giving updates. I asked if we could use the cleanwells.org site, or I could just I could develop an email list and send it out to the residents, but they're trying to do something better. They're working on it. We had that meeting to discuss the bus issues is unacceptable. The buses need to get through. They've always assured that they would be able to get through, emergency vehicles, fire vehicles, and parents taking the kids to school because the bus can't get through is.
I have trouble with my pickup, and I get gas deliveries, and they've even told me that they're getting to the point they can't get down with their truck.
No, it's too narrow. I wouldn't take a chance of going, if I had kids in a bus, of coming off a soft shoulder to try and get by. They're
Well, it's
responsible.
not even a soft shoulder, you're going by,
Oh, yeah.
there's a 5-6 foot deep trench, and you're a
Yep.
foot from it going by, and I'm looking
Okay.
down in the trench as I'm driving by.
Today on, they're doing the ExxonMobil line has started. And you're right, the trench was deep, you know?
You're talking
Overlook.
Sonic Home Road?
Sonic Home Road,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, one question I have is, I thought as they go along, they're supposed to be recovering with asphalt as they move.
Not yet.
Well,
On the weekends.
on the trench and stuff.
Yeah, they're not,
Digging to
they won't use plates, but they will cover, you're right.
I don't mean the hole, but actually, you know, like as they work down the road
Fill.
and they dig, they fill it, but then they've been putting like asphalt back on it, so it's not mud. Are they, what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's just a quick patch. Every end of the week, they're supposed to have the road covered with asphalt. So everything that they've done at the end of the week, it's getting towards the end of the season, they're gonna be stopping, so.
Right, okay.
Anything else from you folks?
I'll send you that paperwork for the meeting.
I think that's it for ongoing business. We do have a gentleman here who's waiting, if you want to.
Gerard Russell, Old Worcester Road.
Come on up, have a
Okay.
seat, join
Okay.
us.
Just good to hear that the board is concerned about odors.
We certainly are.
And I'm just curious about the kind of purview the Board of Health will have over Valley Green Grove in terms of permits and issues that may arise.
That's a good question. I think some of it would definitely go through planning board first, site plan review, I'm assuming.
Doing that now, yeah.
I also saw something in the paper that the special town meeting, one of the preconditions of some of the folks, one of the, what do you call it, articles or warrants or whatever, was that there would be no odors beyond the property line of VGG, is that correct?
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Well, I thought I read it pretty specifically.
Can't believe everything you read in the paper.
I know. Wait a minute. Yeah, I thought that was one of the parts of the of what was being voted on. Jim, you being something.
Just for, we did have a meeting of department heads
Okay.
with the planning board chair today
Okay.
and with the town planner. And we discussed, they went from each department with a discussion of what your concerns would be.
Mhm.
And our concerns would be nuisance complaints. They're doing a 21E study, I believe, and whether Todd reviewed that. They're also doing, they're concerned with the filtration system, whether it's charcoal, what's gonna be HEPA, what's that gonna be. They're also concerned of later if there's nuisance complaint, a violation of peaceful, someone's right for a peaceful existence to live, what would that occur, which I think the planning board is still in the early stages and still trying to do the due diligence. There's been the planning, it's still within the planning board's privy, and they're still reviewing it, but they did want to discuss what, as you would say today, what is the board's concerns. I think the board, we have our current regulations that we've had attorney draw up for our purposes, and the board's accepted those 4 terms at the Worcester Board of Health that the board voted on, that we would be able to, but as far as it come before the board, it's before the planning board right now. But
Would
they're,
it, I guess Mr. Russell is stating, would it come before this board?
no,
It would not.
nope.
Okay. Matt?
Mr. Chairman, so we sit here and we look at the landfill and how those residents are affected, and time again, it's the smell, the odor complaints,
Yeah.
the nuisance, and they're real. Nobody denies the fact. But this board has no authority over the landfill because it's in a different town.
Right.
Whereas with this facility or any other facility that might be coming to this town with the marijuana, if the nuisance is real and we have that problem, I believe this board could act upon it and try and work with the applicant to resolve it, and I mean, and at an extreme level, perhaps even shut them down until they get it fixed.
Correct.
So we at least have the authority in this town, which we have been, hands have been tied with the other things.
Correct. I agree. Kathleen?
Yeah, I agree with Matt, and I think that I'd like to be, if we could, be more proactive instead of waiting for the
Yep.
either noise or odor or compost. We had that fellow in here telling us about how there's some concern about the possibility of the way materials are composted. I don't know if you know about that.
Yeah, gotcha.
And so,
Yeah.
so those three issues, if we can get out ahead of them,
Well,
I think if there's any way to do that, I'm not sure.
I think that we're putting the cart before the horse, because it's not before the board, and the problem is, we don't have authority. I wrote them up and said that they're exceeding it, I have to notify the Cannabis Control Commission, which has total control. The board has limited rights, as the DPH that was taken away from the Department of Public Health and given to a Cannabis Control Commission. We're allowed to, certainly, we adopted regulations that if I felt there was a egregious odor, that there was a malfunction of the system, then I would write it up. But even that, look at, they've been writing up the landfill for what, 10 years now for odors, maybe longer? And 2 weeks before they close, we finally get a letter. So, what's it? It's a $25 fine for a violation of an odor complaint. If it got to the point where we'd have a hearing before the board, I'm not sure how much we'd have to notify the Cannabis Control Commission also, because they have full authority over that site. We hold a license that we told anyone that would have, but this was for the retail sale. This is a growing application, so we have an agreement that they're going to have to get a permit for the retail sale and for medical, which is at the end of the street. We have nothing before us. I don't even know if VGG even has a host agreement. Nothing's been, and I'm the chairman of the Marijuana Advisory Committee. I'm not sure what it is. I know that today they did ask us to come down. They're trying to be proactive, as Kathleen said, to really, but I think it's the planning board's purview to set these according to our regulations, to the state regulations, but you can't, if they make it more strict, we don't have regulations within the board that would allow us to go beyond the state regulation. But certainly, we have a right to, the nuisance complaint for noise and odor would come to this department.
And I want VGG, I want the town, I want the planning board to know that if the odor is even half as bad, in fact, not even half as bad, if it's bad.
If it's
you've
that
got
bad, that would be.
3 schools within a mile downwind of there.
Mhm.
You got residences that are like Mr. Russell, who are next door. And in my mind, there's no way in heck that they should have to deal with, and we got an email from somebody who seemed pretty credible who was involved with a much smaller cultivation facility, under 10,000 square feet.
Mhm.
And he said the odors next door to this, and I'm assuming this was an indoor facility.
They're all have to be indoor.
It smelled like a skunk.
Yeah.
So just to, through the chair.
Yes.
Just to further elaborate on where I was going.
Yep.
I wasn't suggesting that we take any action against VGG or take any, or limit them in any way. What I was suggesting is that we get in touch with them and ask them, I personally want to get reassured. I want reassurance, some concrete reassurance from them before the fact that there's not going to be odor, that there's not going to be noise, that there's not going to be a compost issue. And that's the reassurance that I don't know if the planning board can get that from them, but I think that that's something that we can legitimately ask for.
That's what the planning board's purview is all these issues. That's why they met today. My concern was odor, my concern was compost, my concern was soils, water, what are they gonna do with excessive water runoff? All those issues need to be answered.
And you mentioned noise too.
Noise, everything. Traffic is not the purview of the Board of Health, but certainly the noise issue that would come from traffic may be result, but anything complaint that's issued. But I think Graves Engineering has already asked and they've not received yet. So we will have another meeting, and certainly the Marijuana Advisory Committee, I can ask any board member to attend. We have a meeting coming up the second week of November, which VGG will be here and Green Gold Growers will be here, along with our committee.
Okay.
It's really just an advisory committee. We don't vote on anything, but we discuss, and certainly if anyone's welcome to come to, if you have questions at that, then you can bring it. But Graves Engineering is still requested and reviewing all of these issues that you discussed, and the planning board has
I would like
made
to
no
go to that
decision.
meeting, yeah.
So, and that's what we discussed today. I said, well, I'm worried about what's the existing well. What about the detention pond they had there with water? That's being eliminated and it's allowed. The protection for stormwater, which Todd talked about. I talked about the nuisance odors that we may get from odors. They're waiting to hear back, so Graves Engineering will send out a report for me to review, and the board can get a copy of it, that they're in compliance and this is what their plan is. To say that they're already gonna be a nuisance without really, they're not even built yet.
I'm not saying that they're gonna be a nuisance, and I don't know that they're gonna be a nuisance.
You're right, and it's the planning board's due diligence to make sure that that plan meets Graves Engineering, so they can either vote it, but I'm not sure where it is. I don't go to the planning board meetings. I went today because they requested department heads to go, to air out, to make sure that any issues that are under the authority of the local board of health, meaning you three members, as me as the health director, I told them that we need to make sure that all these issues are addressed, and she wrote them all down. And I'm sorry, but I forget her name. She's the chairman of the planning board.
Yeah, I know.
She seems to be very sincere and wants to do the right thing.
Alicia?
Patsy Ridlack.
Okay, that's great. But now that all these questions that we had are before her, and she's going to send them off to Graves Engineering to make sure that they just don't say they're going to do them, but they need something, a plan.
Yeah.
And they don't have that yet.
My
They have some of
concern-
it.
My concern is that if we are silent, and let's say that VGG goes ahead and you've got a 50, 60 acre indoor greenhouse, and they've said, well, we're putting in state-of-the-art HEPA filters, so there shouldn't be any odors downstream. It's gonna be like the landfill, where you've got somebody who's invested millions of dollars, and then suddenly it's a nuisance, and good luck trying to shut them down, or maybe there's no way to mitigate it. I don't know, but I do wanna make sure that people are looking hard at this.
Well, I did do a
potential-
slideshow presentation at the library. I think Kathleen, you were there.
Yep.
On the rules and regulations that are the authority that this board has. And part of it is that they can only have 100,000 square feet and 2.3 acres per license. This is 860 something thousand on 95 acres, or I'm not sure. I don't know the exact acreage, but certainly that is something that I brought up. But goes before the Cannabis Control Commission, I guess. I don't know. This is certain questions that I brought before the planning board that under the regulations set forth by the Cannabis Control Commission, it's regulated at 100,000 square feet and 2.3 acres. This is a lot larger than that. So I'm not sure how they get around that. And that's one of the questions I brought up today.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Clearly, there are a lot of issues. What I'm looking for is, from the Board of Health, is clarity for residents and taxpayers on Old Worcester Road and beyond as to when and if issues arise regarding odor, noise, composting, arsenic in the soil, because the current plan from the company is to shave off 25 feet on top of the hill, go down 25 feet, and spread all of that soil around the property so it then is plateaued, and they can build on that. The problem with that is there's documented arsenic in the soil. Very limited testing that has been done, but the tests that have been done, 3 test bores, 2 inches down about 1 or 2 feet, shows concentrations of arsenic. And there's historical data on arsenic at apple orchards because that had been the pesticide of choice. So that's there. Even their engineers indicated that it is not a buildable property for housing. It would have to be mitigated. Mitigating soil with arsenic in it is very, very expensive. Our concern is, once that soil is plowed, plateaued, it can become airborne with wind. It can also become a hazard for wetlands with runoff.
Or hazards to your well.
Or hazards to the well. So there's a lot to be concerned about, and I'm looking for, from the Board of Health, Mr. Chairman, some clarity as to what the Board of Health's purview is. What can the Board of Health do if we're presented with these issues? And prior to construction, can the Board of Health take any affirmative action which would place conditions on the developer? I understand the role of the planning board, but I'm curious, as you have an autonomous authority here in the town to protect the health of residents. And I'm just curious what the board can do. Clarity with regard to legally what the Board of Health can require of this developer. And maybe the health director could research this. I don't think everything is under the control of the Cannabis Control Commission. Cannabis Control Commission has delegated a tremendous amount of authority to local boards. And I would think that dealing with the health issues, the Board of Health would, maybe you could seek authority or seek guidance from the State Department of Public Health with regard to this.
Yes.
I did seek that, and that this presentation was from the senior staff attorney directly as a result of what authority do the local boards of health had, and I gave that at a presentation at the library and I can send it forward to everyone. This is from the attorney saying this is what you can do, this is what the board's authority under this, and what the control of the Cannabis Control Commission, and what the local Board of Health can do.
Mr. Chairman, that would be great information to share with residents, because I know I live on Old Worcester Road, and folks are concerned about these issues, and if they knew what their options were, that could be helpful.
Well, there were a lot of them there at that meeting that night.
Can you just leave your email address with Jim?
Yeah, I'll forward
And
you.
feel free to, we can send it to you and share it with the other residents.
And Mr. Chairman, I go by the motto, it's not who it is, what it is. If somehow this gets approved, I think would have strict oversight, the board would, whatever we've adopted, and that's what we are limited to adopt, and I can certainly send that to you, is that anytime there's anyone has a problem, I always respond, whether it's noise, odor, whatever, and I look at it is it justified, and I don't care who it is or what it is, but it hasn't even, I know that the planning board's trying to do the right thing right now, but the problem is the host agreement doesn't come before the board. Host agreement comes before the selectmen, and at that point in time, once the host agreement is there, I don't even know about it until it's handed to me that they're now having a host agreement with the town. So I'm not asked my opinion. I don't think they've ever asked if I agree or anything. The host agreement is between the selectmen and the person who applies for that, and they set certain things up. I think that the misconception is that anyone or the board has anything to do with it at this point in time. I think, yes, we should do our due diligence, which I've tried to do educational things at the library to show what the authority of the board is, but certainly if there's ever a complaint, if this does ever go through, I would be the one to respond and make sure, and I would bring it before the board to revoke any kind of license or any authority we had to say, hey, they violated that, just like with the one that's going down the street. He knows, Mr. McMahon, that if there's any violation of that certainly this board would revoke that license to operate.
Good, and I think that's what we need to make crystal clear, and that's why I want to make sure that the planning board, because I have been going to the meetings, and I realize we're
They have
way
one tomorrow night,
down
which
the road, but-
I probably, if the board wants, I can go to Shore to make sure that the board is concerned that all these issues that we discussed at today's meeting are sent forward to Graves Engineering.
I would absolutely agree that we should, and make sure that they're doing their due diligence, and they're just not saying, well, we'll let the Board of Health take care
No,
of that.
I think that the chairman, who I met with today, is really concerned, and she's being over diligent and absolutely aware of the complexities of this being something different that's new,
Right.
and she wants to make a right informed decision, but there's so much more information they requested they have not received for their engineer to even look at, that it's a ways away.
Okay.
Thank you. Again, just to reiterate, I'm just interested in what the Board of Health can do and is authorized to do under the law. So that's
Well, I think
basically what I'm looking for.
It's definitely odor and noise for sure.
Odor, noise, water, any contamination, and anything that would interfere with your right for a peaceful existence. You said you're in a butter. All of a sudden, there's this tremendous smell and noise. Like Matt said, Mr. Gagnon here, the landfill's been a problem, but the problem is, it's not in our town, so it's not, if these three members had authority to say, we want to do something, they would try and shut that landfill down and make sure there's cover. I think that I've met with Andy Pelletier in Southbridge, that's an issue, but this board has always been for, making sure, and I'm the same way. If there's a problem that's affecting the residents, we have to be on it.
Good to know. But this is going to be in your town, so.
Yep.
That's a big plus.
It is.
And that makes me feel better, not that it's necessarily next to you, but the fact that we would have some oversight.
It may be in this town, it has not been a
Right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Matt.
I just want to say it out loud and probably for the record. This board does a good job, in my opinion. And we do the very best that we can on every situation that comes, but we don't have a magic wand, and we're not able to stop or to do certain things. You talked about the arsenic in the ground. Charlton is known for high arsenic. They're blowing in solar farms all over this place, cutting down 25 feet here, 25 feet there, and it's happening. So to think the Board of Health has the authority because of the arsenic, I'm not saying we do, I'm not saying we don't, but I don't want, we may not have that authority to stop the development of that facility, is what I'm getting at. It's not that easy for us to say, there's arsenic there. Now, the point that you made was it was a pre-existing apple orchard, and maybe the pesticides are an exceedance to the rest of it. I don't know how it would ever be proved. I don't know if there's a program out there, such as a 21E, or a program that could say this specific site has additional contaminants because of the apple orchard, and then we can get onto a contamination side. But you know, I've been through it a few times, and I just we do the best we can, and we always have. But some of these things and some of the items that you're talking about, I don't think that we're going to be able to control. And I just want to say it right up front, because we've had other developmental issues that have come to this town, and this board has sat here and taken it from the residents, if you will, and it was out of our control to begin with. So I certainly hear your concerns and would do everything I can, but I can't promise the world, if you will, and I mean it with all due respect. I'm just letting you know up front, this board is limited to what we can do, and so.
And can I just add to that,
Sure.
just as Matt's talking, I'm thinking about, you know, the town doesn't have odor and noise regulations. The state does, right?
We adopted those, yes.
We adopted
We
what the
enforce
state
the
has,
state.
so we enforce the state. So we don't have anything more stringent than what's already a state requirement. So I just wanna mention that too.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that. Again, just to clarify, I'm looking for clarification on what is in the purview of the Board of Health,
Right.
what the board can do, what the health agent can do, and what you cannot do. I'm not asking you to stop or shut down anything. I'm basically seeking information from the board as to what your right is and what our options are with regard to what our rights are under state law.
Right.
It's just a fact-finding mission here, simply
Right.
that.
Yep, yes.
And I will send you the arsenic vein that I think was from Sanborn Head or Kleinfelder, that arsenic vein, all of Charlton and all of central
99%,
Massachusetts is 99% covered in arsenic.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
I have arsenic in my well. The source of it, who knows? I understand that vein goes through
Yep.
central
Yep.
Massachusetts. I'm aware of that. That's naturally occurring.
Exactly.
What
Yep.
is put in the ground from spraying from pesticides, that's historical from decades ago. That's a different issue. So we shouldn't combine, or rather confuse the two, but
Nope.
there are two issues there.
I think there is a 21E being done for my meeting today, and Todd reviewed all the stormwater management and all that, and he has not concluded with his findings as far as the information. Was a lot of information. He had certainly some questions about, they put like small dog houses that they pump out to make sure that the water and the sand is collected on site, and he's still reviewing that. So that information has come through, and Todd's looking at it.
Okay.
So, and that's under his.
If I could just, Mr. Jordan has been
I just
wanting
want to say,
something.
Mr. Chairman, that 10 years ago, we were given all kinds of assurances that there'd be no odors, there'd be no noise issues with the landfill. We asked the DEP constantly, shut them down until they address the issues, which they've never done. Fines are kind of laughable to a multi-million-dollar company. I would strongly suggest, if it's possible, to put anything into your moving forward permits or anything like that that says if there are odor and noise complaints generated at the facility, you will be shut down until they're addressed. The only thing they understand is you stopping them from making money.
I agree.
That's it.
Yep, I agree. And that's why I brought this thing up, and I swear I saw it in the paper. It was part of the the town meeting where they were saying, and this was a proposal, that odors would not be detected beyond the property of VGG at the apple orchard.
And that, Mr. Chairman, that is in our regulations that were drafted as a kind of a mark for the state from Cheryl Sabara, that odors will be controlled and on-site and not to leave site, I believe. And I can send that to you, but that's something that gives us authority that if there is, exceedance of odors out beyond that area, that I think we'll have to start developing a log sheet. And if there is any complaints, we're developing in this office a different complaint log sheet that we keep, not just for VGG, but any kind of odor or nuisance complaint. We're developing a form for that, so it's easier for the board for me to email it to you or send it to you that I did respond to a complaint, so you know about it right away, and there was an odor complaint, and that you would know about it.
Jim, let me get this straight though,
I'm just gonna close that window.
because
I'll get it for you.
Just, I'm not, sit down.
Jim, let me get this straight though, because a log and a complaint hotline and all that,
Yep.
it does nothing.
It does nothing.
Doesn't help the odor. It doesn't help the noise or the nuisance. So I'm not a big fan of these logs because it's like, okay, there was 5 or 50 or 500, still smells, bottom line. So
Yep.
what mechanism
Sorry.
can this board do to actually say, and let me hear what you're saying. You're saying this board might not be able to control it, that it would go through the Cannabis Control Commission?
I think, like anything, you'd have to base your findings for closure on law. You have to say, under, Chapter 111, Section 120A, we hereby close you for exceedances or for right for peaceful existence for said home. Reason, excessive odors. But in the bylaws state that you can only give a $25 fine, and you can request a hearing before the board. The problem is, if you're gonna take away someone's livelihood and cause a manifest injustice, you better make sure that it is justifiable. That means when I go out there, I would say it is beyond reasonable doubt that there is a severe odor. You need to find the cause and allow them to fix that.
Did we, sorry, Mr. Chairman,
Oh, that's fine.
cutting in. We made other marijuana facilities get a permit from this Board of Health.
They will all have to get permits.
So,
For retail, and we didn't do for growers, we gave it because it became retail food. They're selling medical, which is kind of
Food.
control of food. This, I assume, I'm not sure if there's gonna be retail, I don't know the whole thing, but from what I understand, it's a growing facility and a medical research. There's no sales going on there directly to the retail, so it's not a retail establishment, which really defines that you don't give a license to someone who's a grower. We gave a license to Green, which was Health-Wise, now it's Green Gold Growers, because they're selling brownies, they're selling gummy bears, they're selling pizza dough, so that's why we have to give a permit.
okay, so how about the factory that we have in this town that does scientific research down on Route 30?
LFB, yep.
Okay, that's closed to retail. This board oversees that?
It's overseen by the federal government. But I do inspections on there,
Mhm.
and I've just dealt with them recently, Tom, their engineer, as far as their agricultural waste.
So if you saw something that you didn't think was acceptable there,
Yep.
what's this board's authority to correct it? Ask them nicely and hope they do?
Well, the board's, under the authority that would be given is, there is a difference between a wholesale, a federal permit, and a local authority permit. The pharmaceutical is they're federally inspected, so they have to follow federal.
So they're under that.
But they're also under local jurisdiction for, they take a truck from Helgeson, they drive into a field, and they're spraying the field.
Mm-hmm.
They have a federal agricultural permit to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But under the local, when someone complains that truck was at his house 2 weeks ago, which he did, that they're spraying a field, he had concerns as well. So I did an investigation, I put a stop on it. Because they did have a permit, really didn't have authority, but he said he would stop. It's because it's considered ag waste, and it's totally, they have a permit from the Department of Agriculture to spray it onto fields. It's called rabbit waste.
Mhm.
So that's what they do. But perception is, you see Helgeson truck, you think the guy's dumping it.
Doing human waste.
Human waste. And I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't know anything about it. So we have now LFB is gonna be more upfront. That truck is gonna be labeled agricultural waste, and it's only gonna be used because You can have up to 10% of human waste in that truck. Any more than that, who's gonna know?
Right.
Then you can't spray it on a
Yeah,
field.
who's gonna take a test?
So this gentleman came in and was concerned, and so I said, I had a meeting with Helgerson and Tom Smith from LFB. And we sat down and we had a discussion about, hey, listen, perception is one thing. I have a complaint, I act on any complaint that comes in this office,
Yep.
and I follow through on it. And I said, well, you can't, the perception is this gentleman is an abutter.
Mhm.
He sees Helgerson parked in the field,
Rightfully
open
so,
valve,
yeah.
and free dumping. What is he supposed to think? You did not properly label the truck.
Mhm.
You did not properly inform the abutters that, hey, this is agricultural waste. We're gonna let you know we're here, so don't be alarmed. It has no risk to your well, and we are permitted. So that's what they're working on.
I guess the big question that I have is, how can this board stop it? If it stinks and stinks and continues to stink, because I don't know, I've never been, I heard this place was gonna be huge. I can tell you marijuana stinks, and I can't imagine how they have a magic wand to make that smell go away.
And that's what I wanna have, and before I forget, I wanna interject here. There was, a food reclamation composting facility in Northborough that was just shut down.
Yep.
Their permit was revoked because they said the odors were injurious to the abutters repeatedly. And
Yeah.
they warned this guy, and they warned this guy, and they warned this guy. It was a big, huge operation. It's in your newspaper. You probably know what I'm talking about. And that is the way.
A Charlton resident shut them down. Her name is Jamie Terry. She was the health agent
In Northborough?
in Northborough. Yes, that was because of numerous complaints,
Right.
no proper permits. They considered they were agricultural. The renderers just came in, which we have rendering happening in Charlton every
But
week.
you don't have
But
100 complaints every week.
No, but the odors were because it wasn't properly permitted from the beginning.
Okay.
And I think that's what happened, and there was so many, but that is a process that's illegal. You'd have to get an attorney involved for this board if you ever decided that. It got to the point where you're gonna shut a business down and take away their livelihood. You better make sure you're doing it right, and that's when you'd have to get an attorney involved for the board. And, because if you have a right to fine, you have a right to, take away license, but we do not have control over agricultural. And they may change the marijuana to agricultural. Right now, it's not deemed agricultural. The plants themselves are not agricultural.
They're what, medicinal?
They're just not deemed
Crop?
as crop, but they're not considered even that. That's not
It's gotta
agricultural.
be.
That's what I said, but, you
The
could,
two
you
thousand
agree.
sixteen, 2016 state law
Yep.
deemed marijuana not agricultural.
Yep.
Per state law.
Yep. So, listen, I learned a lot myself, but I certainly want to get as much information as I can. I went to that meeting today to make sure I gave the input of the concerns. It was a last minute thing. They said, come on down. I said, we're concerned, arsenic in the well, we're concerned that, did you do a 21E site assessment? What about the filtration of indoor? What about stormwater, the rain that you're gonna be recycling? What about, what are you gonna do with the water? They're supposed to reuse all that, but that's part of the plan that's going to Graves Engineering, but at least they listen to the concerns, and if I encourage the board, if you have any other questions, when I attend these meetings, if something comes up, I would certainly wanna bring them forward to the planning board, because they're trying to be proactive and make sure all these questions
All right,
get
so
answered.
I've got a question. Was
Yep.
composting brought up specifically?
Composting is going to be part of the study by Graves Engineering.
All right, because if
Yep.
you've got 40, 50, 60 acres, there's an awful lot of,
If you see the
stalks
site
and
plan, there is no available space. It's all building.
It's all interior.
Yep.
It's all interior.
All
So
interior.
even if they do that inside, I don't care how big your HEPA filter systems are, even if they're,
Right.
5 acres, 10 acres, all enclosed. To me, I don't see it, especially with what I'm hearing in California, and this is not inside cultivation, but outside. They said area residents downwind have to put in towels under their doors and keep their windows shut to keep the stench out of their houses.
Well, as a committee, I think that the deputy chief has asked that him and myself and one other member actually go to Colorado. One of my best friends lives in Colorado. We want to go to one of the major facilities, because the question is now, because of the size of the facility, does it have to be sprinklered? And that's a question by the fire department for access. That's a very large building. They're going to have town water, town sewer, so that's an issue that's gone away. But the question is is that facility going to cause any other issues? And we don't know. This is something new to Charlton, so we're trying to do our best. I did call my friend who lives in Colorado. He said, Jim, the smell is not from the growers. It's from the people walking the streets because they can smoke openly. So it's everywhere. And he lives in downtown Colorado. And he's a former resident from this area. And he said that it's just the norm now. It's like someone smoking a cigarette. It's allowed everywhere. He said, you couldn't tell. He said the major, huge facilities are so far out that
that's the issue.
You're right.
Because I lived in Colorado for
they
5
made them put them out in the middle of
and you
nowhere.
only have to go 5 miles from downtown
Exactly.
Denver. You get down south of
But
there towards Phipps Ranch, and you can get to development, and all of a sudden it's just like 5 miles of just
Well,
prairie.
wait till they approve all these smoke shops to allow smoking in there for marijuana. That's what's going to happen.
Well, I think it's a big difference between, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm
No.
just saying.
Charlton's a little different. It's more rural.
For Old Worcester
Yeah.
Road, with the residents that are there, and of course the other concern would be downwind school. And I'm gonna say it again, these people are gonna put in tens of millions of dollars into the facility, kinda like Casella Waste
Mm-hmm.
System, you know, they go and they do all this, and then suddenly, you know, it's gonna take an act of Congress to shut them down, and I don't want that to happen.
I'm here on behalf of the board. I don't have a vested interest. I do not live in the town of Charlton, but I do enforce the laws, and I understand that the abutters are concerned. I'm concerned too.
Okay.
As the board should be. So I don't form an opinion. I said this at the meeting openly into the paper. I'm not a pro or con. I'm here to enforce the laws as written and accepted by the town of Charlton and by the Board of Health, because I'm an extension of the
I just wanna make
board.
sure that we do whatever we can to assist the planning board to put in whatever stipulations and conditions
Yep.
that are adhered to, and it clearly spelled out, if these conditions are not met, boom, and then state it, whatever.
To be honest, I'm not even sure if it's gonna pass the planning board.
Okay.
So-
All right. I know we're jumping ahead, but
Yeah.
Mr. Russell has some very
absolutely.
Well,
serious
I
concerns.
appreciate your explanation, and Mr. Chairman, it won't be necessary for anybody to go to Colorado. All you have to do is go down to Worcester it's the southwest cutoff, Route 20, at the intersection of Route 20 and 122, Grafton Street.
No, it's because Colorado mandates sprinklers, that's why.
Yeah, that's an indoor grow facility. It's not a greenhouse, it's a grow facility.
Yeah.
Route 20 and 122.
Route 20, 122, that's the building, and if you go to,
I've seen
it
it.
depends upon the things. It depends upon which way the wind is blowing, but you get the stench from the marijuana, and this is just a few thousand square feet of grow.
7,500.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's a small amount of space where they have
Right.
plants inside, and you even see various pipes, PCV pipes, dripping on the outside because marijuana plants sweat excessively,
Right.
and they have to get rid of the.
I didn't know that until the email that was shared, and.
From Ed Cutchling.
I did see that, I read that.
Yes.
So it's a small operation. It's in Worcester, and drive by and you can take a whiff.
Have you gone to the planning board with your concerns, specifically this concern and some of your other concerns?
Well, coming up Wednesday will be the traffic issue discussed.
Oh, so they're segmenting it.
They're
into
segmenting it,
traffic
correct.
and groundwater and so.
Tomorrow night's traffic specifically.
Stormwater management, okay, all right.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it was kind of a hodgepodge last week.
Okay.
Traffic this coming Wednesday, and then they have to take a vote by, I believe it's December the 4th. So there'll be several more sessions, but
Right.
the timeline is pretty strict, and the magnitude of the review that they're going to be required to do is frankly overwhelming.
Would we get in trouble if we go and, I mean, as a
You
singular
know, if there's a
person of the board?
posted meeting, I'm not sure I can check.
If you go, just through the chair, if you
Yep.
go, and you're just going for informational purposes, we could all go. We're not necessarily talking
you're not
to
meeting
each
as
other.
yeah.
We're not meeting, we're just
Right.
going to get educated.
Like if the selectmen have a meeting and you're going for informational as a resident, you can still go.
Well, the problem is that once I get talking, I get myself into trouble,
Well,
so.
you can talk for yourself.
I can talk for myself and
Certainly.
reiterate what
And you
Mr.
can-
Russell.
And you can make it clear you're not speaking
Yes.
for the board,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes, Jim.
And I think that, in our discussion, I forgot to bring up that the abutters considered 1,000 feet away.
1,000 feet, all
Yeah.
right. Mr. Russell, how far are you from the border of the property line?
Well, I'm right across the street, so it'd be, well, to the property line, probably 75 feet.
And certainly not probably much farther than that if they're putting that big of a greenhouse facility. And these are gonna be 30 feet high at their height?
Well, I would contend they're not greenhouses, they're grow houses.
Right.
Where greenhouses, by their definition, there's an exchange of air. There should be no exchange of air with these grow houses.
Right.
They're black, you can't see in them, the light can't escape, because that's, from what I've
yeah.
understand from my meetings, that you won't see.
Special grow lights, yeah,
Right.
and that would be light pollution, really, to the, I mean, if you're talking 20, 30, 50 acres of special grow lights 24/7.
They will not, no light, they've assured that no light, well, this is what they've said, no light will leave, because light leaving is money lost.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr.
Russell,
Russell. If you
see
do
you.
have any questions, concerns, also please leave
I'll give you my
your,
card if you
email
want to
address.
send me an email, I can email you.
Perfect.
Great.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
So,
Kathleen, yes.
well, we just have to go over
Oh,
the
yes.
settlement agreement, which
Yep.
is, I can start really quickly, because I was involved.
Can you just give a quick background, because I haven't even read more than about
Well,
20 words out of this, just for the
originally-
camera and also for the recording, for the minutes?
Originally, the town made a deal with Casella back,
Yes.
I don't know, I was on the board then, so it was in exchange for the use of some land called near Dick Tracy's house. Anyway, the deal that we made is pretty much memorialized in this new agreement because Casella is closing. So, a couple of the points, and Jim can, elaborate more, but a couple of the points was that, the town residents can have Casella pick up their residential trash for 25% less than the cost of somebody that was in a different town, like Oxford or Leicester or
Right.
Sturbridge. So we get a 25% break if we use Casella
For
to
how
pick
long?
up our, for another 5 years.
Another 5 years,
Yeah.
okay. And then municipal waste, just so I'm not trying to read while you're talking,
Right.
is that also included? Because I think they were
Well,
picking up
then,
town hall and
then,
school.
yeah,
They will
there's a-
continue to do
There's a
that.
whole list on the back, on the very
All
back
right,
of this.
Okay,
Listing all the, places in town that they continue to pick up for free. This isn't the 25%, this is all for free. So these are all, the police station, the fire station, the library.
schools,
The schools, not, I don't think the schools are on there, are they?
I don't see the schools.
No, the schools aren't on there.
Because I was
Um,
at 9 Burlingame Road this morning, Charlton Elementary, and Casella came in and I was there and watched them
Well,
pick
it's
up the trash.
because it's regional,
Yeah, they don't, they do have a deal, Casella does the schools, but anyway, that's
All
another
right,
separate
but
deal.
regardless, this is some of the town buildings, okay.
That's
right.
all, basically all the town buildings, so that's, and then one of the other big things was that every week we can go to Casella and drop off a chair or a couch or
But
a
not,
bed.
but what about your regular trash?
You can bring your regular
Okay,
trash.
For 5 years.
for
For
5
an
years.
additional
For
5
5
years.
years.
So you don't have to have a haul. You could just drive there and drop your stuff
Right,
off.
yeah.
Yep.
But I go, if I have, an old piece of furniture I wanna drop off.
Yeah,
You could drop off just about everything, but not electronics.
Right.
Anyway, so
Okay.
that's gonna continue, and once Casella closes it down, we can do it in Oxford. So we'd have to go to Oxford instead of Southbridge, basically.
and hazardous waste is stopping, is that what
Yes.
I heard?
Yes.
Yeah, I've been-
Hazardous waste days, okay.
If I may, I've been working with Southbridge, and
Yeah.
we're gonna get a couple other communities, have it in Southbridge where they had it, and we would all go in together to continue to have at least twice a year Hustle Hazardous Waste Day
Yeah.
for Southbridge, Charlton at least, and we're trying to get Dudley and maybe Oxford to include, but they have their own. So it'd probably be Southbridge and Charlton that would have a Hustle Hazardous Waste Day
Okay,
in Southbridge, and we would have to come up with a cost. We'd have to come up with a permit from the DEP,
Mhm.
and that's something that the two boards from Southbridge and Charlton would have to approve.
okay.
We're working on it,
I
but
wanted
it-
to
right
ask-
now,
And that's a big deal because
Yeah, 'cause
right
it's-
now we
and-
do it 4 times a year and the average number of cars that come in from Charlton is 125.
I'm surprised it's not even more because you're talking 4 times a year.
But that's the average, 4 times a year. The average each
Yep.
time is 125.
Okay, because if you were to go to a private place where you
Oh,
just
yeah.
drive in, there's one in Sutton and then there's one in Westfield. And I actually drove out to the one in Westfield with my wife last month, it was September.
For hazardous waste?
Hazardous waste, I took out 2 fluorescent tubes like these. They don't have the green tips, so they're hazardous. That was $1 a piece. We also had some ammonia and a couple other things. So I mean, I spent probably $50 to
Yep.
take it.
But you did the right thing.
I did the right thing. And the reason why I'm saying that is because if you don't have something like a hazardous waste day like this, then you end up like when I was the southerlymost house in town back 25, 30 years ago. I was the last house on the road before it hit Dudley. I'll say it, it's King Road. And I can't tell you how many times I drive there and I come around the corner right there, and it was a perfect spot to dump TVs, tires specifically, but also trash and everything else, and it was just
I
horrific.
deal with that all the time in complaints into
Yeah.
this department.
So hazardous, we definitely need to continue hazardous waste in some way, shape, or form, and I applaud you for your efforts in continuing that, and I think the 3-month cycle is appropriate. People can generally keep the extra can of paint or whatever, or,
We may
you know,
not be able to
whatever.
afford to do it 3-4 times a year.
Well,
Or-
regardless, something, you know, something's better than nothing,
And
just so it doesn't end up in the environment.
Just for your general information, not to really brag, but when I first moved to Charlton, we had, the people had left a lot of waste in our garage, and I came to the town, and I said, where do I dump this? And they said, well, there's no place to dump it, most people just dump it in the woods. Now, I had come from close to Boston, and that was unheard of.
Yeah.
So I started an effort to get a hazardous waste day. And that took me 2 years with a lot of resistance, and finally the town approved $5,000 a year. And we started it over down on Flint Road, and we had everybody come in there. I think it was at least once a year, maybe twice a year, until we worked out the deal with Casella. But that was, we had tires being picked up, we had electronics, we had different groups in different areas. It's kind of fun.
People still like to dump everywhere, and Jerry Fosk's been great. I had some tires that were causing an issue, and he went and picked them up for me. They were right in the road.
Jerry empties quite a bit of large material every month. He told us that.
Is that a highway department?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It was obstruction in the road,
But
the
you
large
can,
truck.
but you can bring this stuff to every week, not every week, the hazardous 4 times a year, but every week you can bring big things to.
Yep.
Jim, is this made public on our website or something? Just
No,
so
I just
people-
received it today.
I know, but I mean, will you, or some way to let the residents know that, you know, because I know some
Absolutely.
people are gonna say, oh, the
I spoke-
landfill's closing, what do I do now?
And that's
Oh,
the
yeah.
question we're getting. That's why I spoke with Robin today. She came down and she had been on vacation. I said, I need to meet with the board today. Casella's closing, getting all kinds of calls.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to tell people. She handed me this. This is good news. And certainly I would like to put a link on there. We'll post it on our website
Mhm.
and see if we can get it on the town, rather than just the Board of Health, but also the town's
The
website.
town, yeah, someplace so that, so at least it informs the folks of what's going on.
Yeah,
Okay,
So-
good.
It's important.
Yes,
very important.
all right. Anything else, Matt?
No?
You ready to go home and watch the game? If you race, you can probably just catch the first pitch.
No, I got dinner.
In 13
I
minutes.
still need to eat.
You just
Almost
came from work,
bedtime.
didn't you?
Oh, straight from work.
Kathleen, you all set?
I'm all set, thank
Jim,
you.
anything else?
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Mr. Jordan?
No.
Okay. All right, with that, I think we'll close it up. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting
Aye.
ended at 7:50 what, Jim?
I think my watch is wrong. I have 8:03, but that's not right.
Well,
7:58.
7:58.